Hello and welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to be taking apart an EB8800 pin pallet movement from this 1970s Sicura skin diver compressor case. So we've got a good solid sturdy case, a stainless steel stamped case back. The main body of the watch is plated brass as they typically are, but it is quite a substantial one. The casing ring is a metal and plastic and just lifts away, and then the stem can be removed by pressing the detent and drawing it out. Here I'm just removing the spring bars in preparation for stripping and cleaning the case. So we can go ahead and uncase the movement. Pop that to one side for the moment while I use my case knife to remove the bezel. And here you can see some genuine 1970s grunge that's built up, and underneath the bezel on these old watches is always a fun time looking at that genuine vintage dirt that just accumulates there. It's remarkable how much gathers. And also of course around the case and around the rim of the crystal where it fits into the case. Look at that, lovely. Here I'm using a die for crystal fitting die to remove the crystal. Just a sharp tap with a jeweler's hammer will pop it out. This is a tension ring crystal. They will typically press out, but this is a method that works well. And there you could see the inner bezel, which unfortunately I was unable to find how that removed, oddly. So next we remove the hands, moving on to the movement, and this is the usual procedure where we use a piece of plastic to protect the dial, and using hand levers I remove the center sweep hand first. Because this is a chrono style watch, I wasn't sure how tight that hand is on, and on any kind of chronograph watch it's advisable to always remove the sweep hand first because they can be driven on really tightly, and once you've actually lifted the hour and minute hand then you've lost the gap that you need to get your hand levers in. So hour and minute hand come off next, and then the sub-seconds hand. A little bit of a fiddle getting the levers under there, but away it comes. We can then flip the movement over, and there are two top hat screws with a wide skirt that cut into the dial feet. These are turned so that the flats face the dial feet, and then the dial can be gently lifted away. I like to use a hand lever or a screwdriver or something similar just to help tease that up, because sometimes they can stick in there a little bit, especially if they have burrs on the feet. Now here I'm just winding the movement, the time setting, to show you that there is a problem with the calendar wheel, and this is in all likelihood part of the reason why this watch ended up in a drawer or wherever before it ended up going to auction and being sold, and the date setting mechanism doesn't work correctly, and that's because the calendar wheel, the date setting jumper wheel, is reinstalled incorrectly, and you'll see that in more detail later in the video once it's rebuilt. And this can in fact cause the watch to stop and not run correctly. So letting down the power on the mainspring, move back round to the dial side and start stripping the dial side, and the cover plate is held on by 3 small screws. This then lifts away complete with the jumper spring attached, but the jumper spring can be removed for cleaning, and then we can remove the calendar wheel. And then the calendar advance wheel and snail cam. which happened to be covered in oil also, which obviously had been done as an attempt to rectify the running problem. Sadly, that didn't work, as it very obviously wouldn't. So the hour wheel and the cannon pinion were then removed. You'll notice the cannon pinion was a little bit stiff to come off, but that's not because it's a traditional cannon pinion. This actually has a driving pinion on the second wheel, and it's because it has a nylon insert that the center chronograph runner passes through, and it is driven by the cannon pinion. So with the keyless works removed, we can pop over to the movement side. First of all, the balance is removed. Now this, as you'll see, was a little bit tricky. The balance wheel did not want to leave the movement at all. It was very reluctant to do so. And I dare say it's some time since this was actually looked at. So here I had to tease the balance wheel out of the jewel there first, before I could go ahead and lift that away. And the springs on these are very fine. These run at 18,000 VPH, so they're quite a weak balance spring on these, and it's easy to stretch them or damage them, so you have to be careful. Next up is the strap that holds the mainspring barrel in place. This is held in place by 2 screws. The one on the uppermost there, you can see, can be left in place, and the strap for the barrel can actually slot underneath that. Obviously we will need to remove it anyway. So there I'm removing the the intermediate wheel for the barrel, intermediate winding wheel, and then the mainspring barrel just lifts off its post. There you can see the reset hammer for the center chronograph runner. So this little diamond plate has a couple of cap jewels fitted inside of it, and this just covers the train of wheels. That's held in place by a single screw. This one is a heavily jeweled variant of the EB8800. They do come in variants from about 17 or 18 to just down to a single jewel. The ones that are 1 jewel movements, that will be the cap jewel on the movement side, the upper side. So that was the pallet cock and pallet fork, which was removed. Here I'm removing the click. At this point here, I'm just dressing this screwdriver, which wasn't the best fit, and quite often you'll find that you need to redress, either sharpen or flatten, or make the tip of a screwdriver a little bit wider, not in the obvious width of the screwdriver, but the actual slot width, to make it fit a screw better. And it's something that you're constantly having to do. So that was the screw that holds the reset hammer in place, and as this hinges on one of the posts of the train bridge, we need to remove the tension from that, which involves removing the screw that holds it onto the main plate and then the spring which operates it. We can then go ahead and remove the remaining 2 screws. The third one in the middle is the one that held the click in place, and then the entire bridge can be lifted away. You'll note that the click spring remains underneath, so that's the spring that operates the reset pusher. That's the reset pusher, which simply lifts away from the post. And here, just to show you clearly, is the center chronograph runner, which is not actually driven by any of the wheels, it's just friction driven via the cannon pinion, so it follows the minute hand around and it counts minutes. And there, as you can see, we removed the click spring, and then we're now removing the train of wheels. At this point I can just draw the stem out, and the winding pinion and clutch will just drop out, and then the balance is refitted ready for this to have a pre-clean, peg the jewel holes, and for it to go into the cleaning machine. And lastly, regarding the disassembly, the mainspring barrel is disassembled. I'm rotating the lid counterclockwise to release it, because the lid also contains the barrel arbor, which pulls the spring. So doing that to release it from the spring, and then we can unwind the spring carefully, as you can see here. And that completes the disassembly of this particular EB8800 pin pallet movement. So we're here at the reassembly stage. Everything's cleaned and put back together, and I've just refitted the calendar ring and its retaining plate. And I wanted to make this brief clip here to point out the comment that was made earlier during the disassembly about the date change mechanism being assembled incorrectly. Now you can see on this plate here, when during disassembly the snail cam was on top of this, which is incorrect, and made for a very slow date change, and would in fact actually affect the running of the mechanism, because rather than gradually riding up the snail of the cam, it has to climb the steep bit that the date change snaps down on. And just to show you the difference in the date change from earlier, I will demonstrate by rotating this around. If you look there, you can see the number 7 is by the stem, and if you watch up here, you'll see this little lever slip past and then hook on the calendar wheel up here, which allows this, when it drops down the steep incline of the cam, it rapidly pushes this, allowing this to spring up and then notch back into the next one, allowing for a quick date change. Hopefully that makes sense. It's very hard to actually describe, and it's easier to see what's happening. So as you watch, you'll see the lever will start to slip around, and then it will hook just above the 17, like so. I don't know if you heard that, a very, very faint click, but that's now hooked above the 17, and it will start to push it around just ever so slightly until this drops down the steep incline of the snail cam, like so. I'll just run that through again for you so you can see that happening. So this time around, that little lever will start to slip up past the 18 towards the 19, if you watch that. And this is the spring that forces the calendar wheel forward. The little click there as it snaps into place between the 18 and 19, and then as it drops down the cam, this will volley forward and spin the calendar wheel, and then this little notch down here in this cutout is where it engages with the teeth of the calendar wheel to lock it at the next one. So if you watch that, that will just plummet suddenly, like so. And it all happens very, very quickly. So there we have the date reassembly covered. I'm now going to go ahead, refit the dial, refit the hands, give it a wind and run that and leave it on test. And if you want to see a reassembly, because I won't be showing the whole reassembly in this video, just the disassembly, and obviously reassembly is a reverse of the disassembly, as it were. If you want to see a reassembly, you can watch my Sheffield All Sport video, which uses an EB8800 movement. I didn't really see any point in making another one for the same movement. And it's all the same with the exception of this center wheel and this little press button here, which resets the heart on the center wheel, which is friction driven and runs along with the minute hand. So as you turn the minute hand, you'll notice in the earlier clip when I was aligning the hands for removal, as you turn the time, it will follow the same rotation as the minute hand, and this just resets it to at any point you wish, and it's friction held by the little internal nylon collar in the cannon pinion. So as I said, if you want to see a reassembly, have a look at the Sheffield All Sport video, which is in my watches playlist. As a final little clip of this video, here is the watch cased up. It is still missing the central crown that you can see there. I need to find a crown which I can fit, and this central crown operates the internal bezel. This is going to be a watch for me to wear. This is just a little project I picked up. So I'm not bothered about finding a crown that will actually operate the bezel. I may be able to find one with the internal gear that operates it, but I'm not concerned if not. But what I do want to do is find a crown that I can fit onto this, even if it's just sort of screwed into the back, so that it blocks up this tube and prevents it working. The lower crown winds the watch as a manual winding watch and sets the time. The upper crown is actually a pusher for this center minute recorder hand. Now you can see there you've got the little sub-dial for the seconds, which is sweeping away there, and then the hour and minute recorders as normal, and this center hand, which typically would be a second sweep hand on a chronograph, this center hand is actually friction driven on a center pinion through the cannon pinion. The cannon pinion has a nylon insert. The center pinion, which has a heart on it, which can be reset by this button here, which I'll demonstrate in a second, is carried around with the rotation of the minute hand. So for each minute that the minute hand rotates, this will also rotate around a minute, thereby counting the minutes. And it can be reset at any time by pressing this button here, back to the 12 o'clock position, as you can see. And just to demonstrate, obviously I'm not going to ask you to sit here for 3 minutes or 4 minutes to watch it rotate, but you can see there, as you rotate the minute hand, in fact what I'll do is I'll pop that there so it's level with it, and then you can see that that's driven round at exactly the same pace as the minute hand, like so. So that's how that works. So all in all, I'm reasonably pleased with that. It's not perfect. It's a little bit rough here and there, but it's a fun little watch, which I often quite like, things that are just a little bit quirky and a bit fun. And I do love these old Sicuras and this kind of 70s skin diver vibe, and they made some really cool looking watches. So I need to find a gasket. It needs a flat case gasket to go in the back there to be compressed between this back and this crown here, and then I need to find a suitable strap for it, and then that's ready to go. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.